Dear students, my name is Hashil Abdallah, lecturing criminal, civil and criminal law, and also the head of department in the civil and criminal law department. Today we will be dealing with lecture 3, which will cover knowledge 3 in the subject criminal law and procedure. In the knowledge 3, we will discuss selected offenses. As you remember, in lecture 1 and lecture 2, which covered the knowledge area 1 and knowledge area 2, we saw in depth what is crime, what is criminal law, the sources of criminal law, and also we discussed the general principles for criminal responsibility. Before establishing an offense, you have to see whether the offense has been committed by a guilty mind or there was some defenses available. Therefore, to understand how the offense is committed and what are the ingredients for the offenses, we will select few offenses in which we will examine how their ingredients are established. Those offenses, for the purposes of this class, will go to see 3 main offenses. 1, offenses against the property. 2, offenses against the persons. And 3, offense against morality. To be more specific, offenses against women. We will start by offenses against property. And the first offense to examine is theft. What is theft? What are the ingredients of theft? And what is the punishment for theft? We will start by section 258, which defines theft. The law says, any person who fraudulently and without claim of right takes anything capable of being stolen or fraudulently converts to the use of any person other than the general or special owner thereof anything capable of being stolen is said to steal that thing. This is statutory definition of what theft is. The law requires that there must be a thing, and that thing should be in law capable of being stolen. We will see how and to what extent a thing can be capable of being stolen. But another ingredient, the taking, it should be a fraudulent taking without any claim of right. A person taking a thing from another person should take that other thing with fraud intent, and the thing which is taken should be capable of being stolen. Not everything is capable of being stolen. There are things which cannot be stolen. Now, what are the things capable of being stolen? Section 257 says, every inanimate thing, whatever which is the property of any person and which is movable, is capable of being stolen. So here you can see some ingredients for a thing to be stolen. 1, it should be a property of another person. There must be the owner of that property. 2, it should be inanimate thing, a man-made thing, a thing which is naturally occur, and also a thing which is movable, then the offense can be committed. Dear students, things which are not owned by somebody cannot be stolen. Things which are naturally occur in the environment cannot be stolen. And also immovable things cannot be stolen. For instance, a parcel of land. You can't steal a parcel of land, but there will be another offense, like a trespass into the land of another person. In order for theft to occur, there must be a thing, and that thing should be capable of being stolen. And section 257 of the Penal Code provides the elements for a thing to be in law known as capable of being stolen. From this definition of theft and from the definition of a thing capable of being stolen, you can see now there are some elements for the offense of theft to be committed. One, it should be a fraudulent taking. Two, a thing taken should be a property of another person. And the thing taken should be capable of being stolen as provided under section 257 of the Tanzania Penal Code, Cap 16. Dear students, from the general definition, you can see now every inanimate thing which is the property of any person and which is capable of being made movable is capable of being stolen as soon as it becomes movable, although it is made movable in order to steal it. From the definition, in order to steal something, the thing should be movable. But for the fraudulent intent, you can make a thing movable, though naturally a thing cannot be movable. But if you make a thing movable for the intention to steal that thing, though a thing not movable can be a thing capable of being stolen. Take an example of trees. You have trees in your farm. Then you need to steal those trees. Naturally, a tree can't move from one place to another, but you can make that thing movable by cutting it down. So you go to the farm, you cut down the logs or timbers. After cutting, you make them to move from point A to point B. So you can be told that you have stolen that thing, though naturally trees cannot move from one place to another. Dear students, every tame animal, whether tamed by nature or willed by nature, and tamed, which is the property of any person, is capable of being stolen. We discussed a thing to be stolen should be a man-made thing. What about animals? Animals are not man-made things. Animals are creations. But if those animals owned by somebody, then they are capable of being stolen. So you may refer to sections 257 and 258 of the Penal Code to see more and clear elaborations as to how and to what extent a thing can be capable of being stolen. What about willed animals? The law says, animals willed by nature, of a kind which is not ordinarily found in a condition of natural liberty, which are the property of any person, and which are usually kept in a state of confinement, also are capable of being stolen, whether they are actually in confinement or have escaped from confinement. Apart from domestic animals, there are willed animals, but still those willed animals may be owned by somebody. and that person may keep those animals in his home or somewhere else. Those wild animals, once owned by somebody, also may be capable of being stolen. Dear students, that is clear elaboration on a thing capable of being stolen. But there is an ingredient for theft which says there must be a fraudulent taking. It's not every taking is a fraudulent taking. A theft, in order to be recognized as an offense, there must be a fraudulent taking. Now the law says, in order to establish a fraudulent taking, there are clear circumstances to be looked at. One, there must be an intention of permanent deprivation of the general or social owner of the thing. So, a person taking a thing from another person should have in his mind an intention to take that other thing permanently from the person who is owning it. Such permanency and such intention to take a thing permanent is construed as fraudulent taking, and hence it's an ingredient for theft. Also, a person must have an intention to use a thing as pledge or security. If not permanent deprivation, a person is intending to take a thing so as to use it as pledge or security for his benefits. In law, that is also a fraudulent taking. Another circumstance to establish fraudulent taking is an intention to part with it or on condition as to its return, which the person taking or converting it may be unable to perform. You take a thing and you give a condition to which you know exactly a person cannot fulfill that condition. That is stealing. That is stealing, and that is a fraudulent taking. Under making such condition, we can see whether the person takes or converts it, although he may intend afterwards to repay the amount to the owner. But provided that you need to take it, and you take it with giving some conditions, and you know those conditions cannot be performed by the owner, that is a fraudulent taking. And if it is a fraudulent taking, no doubt it is stealing. And if you steal a property of another person under fraudulent conditions as explained, that is theft, and theft is an offense. It is a crime punishable under the law. Also, you can establish a fraudulent taking by looking to an intention to deal with it in such a manner that it cannot be returned in the condition in which it was at the time of the taking or conversion. You take a thing from somebody fraudulently, and you use that thing to the extent that cannot be returned to its original position. By so doing, that is a fraudulent taking, and if it is a fraudulent taking, it is stealing. And lastly, in the case of money, you take a money with an intention to use it at the will of the person. At the will of the person. So, permanency, deprivation, and intention to deprive from the owner of the property, those are ingredients for making fraudulent taking, and hence, if a thing is capable of being stolen and fraudulently taken without a claim of right, it is stealing. Now, if the offense of theft is proved beyond reasonable doubt, what is the punishment for theft? The law under section 265 of the Penal Code provides punishment for theft is 7 years imprisonment. 7 years imprisonment. Remember, the standard of proof in the criminal cases is beyond reasonable doubt. And here you owe to establish the elements of the offense. As you remember general principles in the criminal responsibility, there must be actus reus and mens rea. So, it is not enough to establish somebody took something. You have to go further to establish that such taking was with intention to steal. And in law, those are fraudulently taking aspect, which has been explained. So dear students, take your time to go through sections 257, 258, and 265, all of them from the Penal Code, to see what are the ingredients of theft, 1, 2, how mens rea and actus reus can be proved in the offense of theft, and lastly, see what is the punishment provided in the Penal Code for the offense of theft. There is one interesting question. Can a wife or husband steal from his husband or from his wife, from her husband or from his wife? Remember, a person may marry another person, and in that marriage relationship there are rights and duties to each other, but still those rights and duties cannot distinguish from ownership of property. In the law of marriage, there are rights and duties of every spouse. A spouse may own a separate property from another spouse. However, there is a concept of matrimonial property. There are some property jointly owned by both parties. Suppose there is a property owned by a single spouse. Then another spouse can steal from that other property. The law clearly says under section 264 of the Penal Code. For the avoidance of doubt, it is hereby declared that a husband may be guilty of stealing from his wife or a wife from her husband. Therefore, married couples should be very honest to deal with the property of their spouses. But a lawyer should be cautious on duty of the husband to maintain his wife. If circumstances compel a wife to use the money of her husband for basic needs, then there might be justifications for that. Stealing will occur if and only if the ingredients of stealing has been established as provided under section 257. A fraudulent taking property of another person with something which is capable of being stolen. So, a husband, after maintaining his wife to the total satisfaction and no any debt, then a wife is supposed to plead for consent or for permission to use or to take extra valuables from her husband, and vice versa. A husband is duty bound to request for the uses of extra funds from his wife. If fraudulently you take a property of your husband, or fraudulently you are taking a property of your wife, be careful. You may be liable for the offense of theft. After looking theft, there are other offenses which are connected to theft, and there are offenses against property. Therefore, I will highlight 2 or 3 other offenses in order to make you conversant with the offenses against property. The first offense is robbery. Robbery, in all circumstances, is stealing. However, the offense of robbery is proved after having provement to the use of force. Not only use of force, you may use a threat, and also you may use a weapon. The law says any person who steals anything and acts or immediately, definition of before or immediately after the time of stealing, uses or threatens to use act of violence to any person or property in order to obtain or retain the thing stolen, or to prevent or overcome resistance to its being stolen or retained, is guilty of robbery. Dear students, remember, in robbery, all ingredients of theft should be there. But in addition to the ingredients of theft, a person uses force or threatens to use force. By that use is robbery. And if the force used or threatened to use a weapon, then there is an armed robbery. An armed robbery is a grievance, is a serious offense than a robbery. Once use force or threatens to use force, it is robbery. Once use an arm, a weapon, then it's now known as armed robbery. These are different offenses. Normal stealing is a theft. Uses of force, robbery. Using weapons, and robbery. Go to section 255 of the Penal Code. What is the punishment for robbery? A person who commits the felony of robbery is liable to imprisonment for 20 years. Now you can see, normal stealing, 7 years. Uses of force in stealing, 20 years. And if you go to armed robbery, now the offense, the punishment also will change. The law says, if the offender is armed with any dangerous or offensive weapon or instrument, or is in company with one or more other person or persons, or if at immediately or before, after the time of the robbery, he wants, beats, strikes, or uses any other personal violence to any person, he is liable to imprisonment for life, with or without corporal punishment. These are stages of the offense. You steal something using weapon, being an armed robbery. The punishment for it is life imprisonment. Use normal forces or threats, it is normal robbery, and the punishment is 20 years imprisonment. If normal stealing, which is theft, 7 years imprisonment. So, my dear students, remember to categorize these offenses and to see their ingredients as well as their different punishments, showing how they are serious offenses from one to another. There is another offenses which closely resemble to theft. This is known as burglary and house breaking. Burglary and house breaking. Section 293 of the Penal Code says, a person who breaks any part, whether external or internal, of a building, or opens by unlocking, pulling, pushing, lifting, or any other means whatever, any door, window, shutter, collar flap, intended to close or cover an opening in building, or an opening giving passage from one part of building to another, is deemed to break the building. So that is house breaking. If you unlock a padlock, if you unlock a door, if you break the window, whether internally or externally, it is breaking of the house. It is house break. But such house break should be accompanied with an intention to commit an offense therein. No matter what type of offense you are going to commit inside, from the extent you unlock, you break, it is an offense by itself. So, to what extent a person is deemed to have been entered in the house? A person is deemed to enter a building as soon as any part of his body or any part of any instrument used by him is within the building. So, if somebody comes to your window or to a window of somebody else and opened the window or broke the window and entered his hand inside the window, the law says a person has committed a house break, has already committed the offense. Whether stole something inside, whether didn't steal anything inside, from the fact that part of his body is inside the house, he tend to commit an offense. Now, what's the punishment for house breaking? For house breaking, the punishment is 14 years. Remember, dear students, no matter you have committed an offense inside the house or not, from the fact that you have brought the house and you have entered in the house of another in order to commit an offense therein, you are liable for it. And upon conviction, you are liable for sentence of 14 years. Dear students, the same offense of house breaking, once committed at night, the name of it changed and became burglary. So a burglary is an offense of house breaking, but it committed during night hours. The punishment for burglary is also different from the house breaking. The punishment for burglary is imprisonment of 20 years. So 20 years in prison. Remember, house breaking is only 14 years, but the same offense, if committed at night, the sentence also changes from 14 years to 20 years. So those are examples of offenses against the property. I started with theft, I discussed the robbery, I discussed the armed robbery, then house breaking and burglary. Take your time to go through them all in order to establish both elements of mens rea and the actus reus for the offenses against property. Now let us see offenses against person. There are several offenses against a person, but due to time, we will discuss one or two between murder and manslaughter or murder only. However, on your time, go and see assault and battery as offenses against person. What is murder? Section 195 of the Penal Code defines murder. It says, any person who, of malice aforethought, causes the death of another person by an unlawful act or omission is guilty of murder. Section 195 provides definition what murder is, that is one. But also, Section 195 gives us elements for murder. 1, malice aforethought. 2, causes death of another. And 3, by unlawful act or omission. So, in order for a person to be convicted for murder, the 3 ingredients ought to be established and proved beyond reasonable doubt. Malice aforethought, causing death of another by unlawful act or omission. What is the punishment for murder? Punishment for murder to death is sentence to death. A murderer should be sentenced to die in the courts of law under Section 197. Now, murder has 3 ingredients, elements: malice aforethought, cause of death, and unlawful act or omission. What constitutes malice aforethought? What constitutes causing death of another? We will see in this lecture. Law says, if somebody has intention to cause the death of another or to do grievous harm to any person, whether such person is the person actually killed or not, is said to have an intention to kill. Malice aforethought is an intention to kill. The law says, if you intend to cause grievously bodily harm to another person, and such person, due to the effects of that harm caused to him, died, you are in for it. You are said in law to have an intention to kill. You had not an intention to kill, but you had an intention to cause grievous bodily harm. And the effect of the harm you caused to that other person, the other person died, then the law construes that you had an intention to cause, you have a malice of killing. Another circumstance to establish malice aforethought is an intention to commit a felony. So, you don't have an intention to kill, but you had an intention to commit an offense. As a result of that offense, a person died. Then the law construes that you had an intention to kill that other person. Another circumstance is where a person has an intention by the act or omission to facilitate the flight or escape from custody of any person who has committed or attempted to commit a felony. As a result of such, that other person died. The law construes to have malice aforethought. Lastly, a malice aforethought can be established when a person has a knowledge that the act or omission causing death will probably cause the death of or grievous harm to some person, whether such person if the person actually killed or not. Although such knowledge is accompanied by an indifference, whether death or grievous bodily harm is caused or not, or by a wish that it may not be causing death. Dear students, you know for sure that a gun once fired and bullet went, such might cause death. You know for sure that a stabbing person with knife in his stomach or whatever will cause death. Pointing and stabbing a person with an arrow can cause death. Such knowledge in your mind is controlling factor for the acts. Having that knowledge and acting in the same direction, and the other person affected by your act, the law says you had an intention to cause death of that other person, and if other ingredients proved, then you will be liable for murder. Now, to what extent a person may be tempted to cause death? Section 203 of the Penal Code says, a person is deemed to have caused the death of another person, although his act is not the immediate or sole cause of death defined in any of the following cases. You might commit something, but what you have committed is not a direct result for death, but due to that a person died. The law says you have caused a death of that other person. Suppose it was a fight between you and another person, and then you stabbed a person in his head. A person admitted to hospital. At hospital, he got some treatment. Later on, he passed away. The law says you is the one caused a death of that other person. Regardless, your act was an immediate causation for his death or not. That is the law. If you have inflicted injury to a person, and that person went to hospital for treatment, but as a result of the injury passed away, you have caused the death of that another person. Or if by actual or threatened violence he causes that other person to perform an act which causes the death of that person, such act being means of avoiding the violence, then you are liable for causing death. You are in the flat at ODL building there, 9th floor there. Then you threaten a person, and the person decided to run through window. After running through the window, got down and died. The law says you have caused the death of that other person. My dear students, on your own time, you can think to another scenarios. For instance, you have caused the pregnancy to a lady, and a lady came to you for maintenance and the other expenses for taking care of the pregnancy. You refused to be the author. A lady decided to commit a suicide. Will you be liable for causing her death or not? That is your assignment. On your time, try to think. Because the law says, if you threatened violence, denial of the pregnancy, is that a violence? And the denial of the pregnancy, can it be termed a threat to violence? And that might be termed as a cause for the death or not. So on your own time, you can think and you can discuss to see whether or not that might be a causation for death. Another circumstance in which a person may be termed to have caused a death of another person is when, by an act or omission, he hastens the death of a person suffering under any disease or injury, which apart from such act or omission would have caused death. A person is suffering from certain disease, and you know for sure that he or she must die, but you feel is delaying to die, so you facilitate his death. Is it a causation of death? Yes. If you have facilitated the death, you are liable as caused death of that other person. So think on the circumstances for serious illness. A person is on bed for so long time and you fail to take care, or you think is disturbing you, so you facilitate his death. You are liable for causing death of that other person. Dear students, we discussed the murder, and I told you if the time will allow us, we can see a bit a manslaughter. A manslaughter is causing death to another person by unlawful act or omission, but without an intention to kill. So all ingredients of murder are there except an intention to kill. You have caused the death by unlawful act or omission, but you had no malice afore thought. The law under section 195 says, any person who by unlawful act or omission causes the death of another person is guilty of the offense manslaughter. Unlawful omission is an omission amounting to culpable negligence to discharge a duty tending to the preservation of life or health, whether such omission is or is not accompanied by an intention to cause death or bodily harm. There are a lot of decided cases which murder cases reduced to manslaughter only because the court finds a person had no an intention to kill, but he caused the death. Such causation of the death and doing something which is unlawful might not render any person killing to be liable for murder. Dear students, briefly, let us look to offenses against morality. And here we can see basically the offense of rape. What rape is? Any person who has unlawful carnal knowledge of a woman or a girl without her consent, or with her consent, if the consent is obtained by force, or by means of threats, or intimidation of any kind, or by fear of bodily harm, or by means of false representations as to the nature of the act, or in the case of a married woman by personating her husband, is guilty of offense, and that offense termed as rape. Dear students, any person having carnal knowledge, what is carnal knowledge? Find it for yourself. Carnal knowledge. And that carnal knowledge to a woman or a girl, to a woman or a girl is liable for rape. Remember, you have to commit that carnal knowledge without consent of a woman or a girl. But still, a woman or a girl might consent to the act, but such consent was not freely given. Consent given by force, consent given by misrepresentation, consent given by coercion, or by mistake, that in law is not a consent. And if you have committed such an act to a woman or a girl, it is a rape. What is the punishment for rape? Any person who commits the offense of rape is liable to be punished with imprisonment for life, with or without corporal punishment. Rape is one among the serious offenses and is sentenced for life imprisonment. Go and see section 131 of the Penal Code. Also, you might commit an offense to attempting rape. Any person who attempts to commit rape is guilty and is liable to imprisonment for life, with or without corporal punishment. See section 132 of the Penal Code. Thank you very much. And remember, we had discussed selected offenses. The aim of having those selected offenses is in order to appreciate the requirements of general principles for criminal responsibility, mens rea and actus reus. So whatever you have an offense, these selected are few, just for explanation and elaboration. Once you have a penal law, look to the wordings of the penal law. Theft, what are the ingredients of theft? Look from those ingredients of theft whether actus reus and mens rea explained and how to establish. Look for the murder. Presence of malice aforethought entails malice aforethought is an intention to kill. So causing death by unlawful act of omission are actus reus, while malice aforethought is an intention. To this end, wishing you all the best, and let us meet again for other lectures. Thank you so much.